Well, good morning. It's about quarter after 9 o'clock, and on a regular school day, you and I would have been at work 15 minutes into our space, our sacred space in gym room 1004, and one or two of you would already have begun your journey with your map wraps, whatever that ends up being for you. I'm sorry that we're not together, frankly. I was really looking forward to what you would do and say, but I'm pretty sure you're a little relieved and even grateful for some more time to prepare and develop. That's okay. I get that. I do want to take a few minutes this morning and say something important that I would have talked about in class on Wednesday and frankly forgot. And I think it's important for me to say this to you, and plus this is a way of kind of making up for that 50 minutes we'll lose, although I don't intend to talk for 50 minutes. The syllabus has some words in it that I think I pointed out to you, but I want to call your attention to more specifically in light of where we are now. And if we'd been able to start the class on schedule, I would have spent a lot more time about this. But this is what the syllabus says. Religion 320, Spirituality, Character, and Service, is designed as both a personal and a communal journey in the context of the mission and purpose of Warner Pacific College. Therefore, certain permissions exist so that the course can be fully experienced by you. SCS can be thought of as a personal journey course, and it is very much that. Like any course, it offers you a choice. And you can participate in the class in order to examine yourself, your beliefs and values, the world you live in, and how each of these connect and help you to interpret life. Or you can take it as a requirement that you need to fulfill. You have permission to make that choice and follow it consistently. However, I start with an assumption that about your readiness to consider thoughtfully and critically where you are on your life journey. It's important, therefore, that you understand that you have permission to perform at the highest standards of which you're capable in written, oral, and performed communications. College-level writing standards will be part of how your work is evaluated and graded. But since the course on many levels is about you and your life journey, it may require some vulnerability. You have permission to be as transparent as you choose, the syllabus says. You have permission to engage personally the questions of this course and the many possible answers discussed in this course. Those are the words of the syllabus, and now let me unpack that just a little bit. I have three basic practices as a teacher in a course like this. The first is that I do not ask you to do what I'm unwilling to do myself, and to do first. That is why, as we've walked through the life mapping process, you've heard so much of my own story. It's not, as I said, simply because I like to talk about myself, but as a way of both modeling and creating a space wherein you might also feel equally at home. The second practice is that you, just as I am, are in control of your own story. Nobody else can tell your story. Consequently, you have the right to be as transparent and vulnerable as you choose to be. Or, of course, the opposite of that, which means that no one is expected to be more vulnerable than he or she chooses to be. No pressure, in other words. The third practice is the no doubt very familiar axiom that I think is central to courses like this, the Vegas rule. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. My version, what happens in gym room 1004 stays in room 1004. No one has the right or permission to tell another person's story. Of course, you have permission to speak to each other both in and out of class about your stories and your presentations. But once you walk out of class, for you and for me, the discussion ends. unless you enter into an agreement with the storyteller. So, for example, I will never tell your story to anybody else unless I have your permission to do so. I hope this makes sense, and I hope it helps you to feel a little more secure and comfortable about the journey. No one is going to judge you. It's your story to tell, and it is you who determine what you share and how you share it. My impression is that many of you are taking this course seriously. I hope so. I am looking forward to Monday. It seems we will be back on normal Portland winter weather, and we will still take the 2 days, if necessary, scheduled for this that were to begin today. And I will make adjustments for how we move into the next unit of the course. And I do have something to say about that as well. When we are through with your presentations, we will continue our journey with spirituality, character, and service by engaging a short but very powerful text. That's this one. It's backwards, but you know what it looks like. The Return of the Prodigal Son by Henry Nouwen. Between now and then, I want to encourage you to spend some time doing a few things. First, in the text, as I pointed out to you early on, in the front flap, there is a copy of Rembrandt's famous painting based on this story of the prodigal son. I'd like you to take some time to spend some time with this. Just engage it to the extent that you have time for or even interest in. Unfortunately, this is a fairly dark rendition, so I also encourage you to go to Google and key in Rembrandt's Prodigal Son painting. A plethora of images will come up. Check out several of those images that have been artificially lightened so that you have a better sense of all of the elements of the painting, because there are elements in this painting. There are elements in this painting that you really can't see, or at least not see very well. This book focuses on Rembrandt's version of the story and his own life, Rembrandt's own life in relationship to this painting, and Nouwen's journey with this painting. It is not exactly a thoroughgoing examination of the story, the original story told by Jesus and recorded in the Gospel of Luke chapter 15. That's the second thing I would ask you to do. Find that chapter in the New Testament and at least read the section in which the story is told. Luke 15, verses 11 through 32. We'll spend some time unpacking that story a bit in class, but it would be helpful for you, especially if you read it before you read Nouwen. That's kind of the primary document that both the painting and Nouwen and all of our journeys are based on. Finally, the last thing I want you to do is what's on the schedule is to read the assigned reading that is scheduled for Friday the 10th. There will be a reading quiz over those pages, a brief reading quiz, not planned to trick you, just to encourage you to be sure that you've read. The chapters I want you to read are the prologue, the introduction, and the younger son. It starts on page 3 and ends on page 58. Yeah, it's a hefty reading, but it'll go quickly. We will spend 2 class sessions, a total of 6, addressing each of the sections and characters as presented by Nouwen. I'm looking forward to engaging this remarkable story, painting, and Nouwen's own journey with you. Well enough. I hope you find this helpful. I would rather have been with you in the classroom. Nonetheless, have a good weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.